you might have seen I've made a Christmas display in my window, and I want to explain a bit about it, various parts. So this video will have various aspects to it. I'll explain what I've done or why I've done it, the reasoning behind it. That'll be one section. Then I'll explain how I made it, more the crafts, the actual building it and the design. Then there'll be a section on the electronics behind it. This might be more techie, the electronics and the programming. So only some people will be interested in that. Then I might, because I'm not sure it's quite finished yet, I might show some of the improvements and talk about that I made, more so around the programming and what it does. I hope you're interested. You might want to skip to the specific bit you're interested in. But yeah, first of all, what it is and why. So this is, my window is part of a trail of windows in Belmont, in Durham. There's actually several areas in Durham doing this Christmas window trails. I think in the past, most notable has been Joelsgate Bank, which nice to have houses with grass in the front. So they've done an Advent calendar trail. Each day of Advent, a window appears with kind of decoration and a number, the Advent number. Often they're done as stained glass window style using tissue paper. So other areas, normally a local church organises it. They sign up and people display their windows either to appear on a day of Advent or just all of them appearing over Christmas. And because not everyone knows where their trail is, I made a website, durhamlights.com/Christmas, so you can see if there's some Christmas windows decorated around you. When I heard about one in Belmont, I was quite interested to do this because I thought my window might be good for displaying things. So yeah, I had the idea, I wanted to make rolling hills because I thought there was a space in there. These are my curtains and there's quite a deep windowsill between the curtains and the actual window. So rolling hills makes me think shepherds, and they could just be there. I thought it'd be fun just doing a little cotton wool, not too detailed for the sheep. And then the star, which you can see shining through the back of the curtains just a bit. I think the star's an important part of the Christmas story and the Christian story of that light, that something to brighten us up, some hope, something really important's happening. And it's happening in Bethlehem above the town, and the new star in the sky that that various people saw, and we can figure it out in astrological records. Like, that just shows something here, it's lit up, you need to see it, and it'll brighten up the things. And certainly even for the standard workers, the shepherds, they saw that and they got a message that it wasn't something you could ignore. So that was my inspiration. Also the star and the light. I've been playing with LED strips because I've got some to light up a part of my living room. So they're quite cheap. You get a roll of little LEDs on a kind of wire strip, and you can set them up and program them. You can buy a controller, so you can control them for your phone, or you can get a little circuit board and program them. So I was interested in that particularly. I tried to program some above my sofa so I could have different lights, but I haven't really got involved in that. So a project that's kind of time sensitive that I had to get done to tell me how to program these. You don't have to have them just one colour, you can program each individually. So I decided to do that. I could have some of them as the star, some as the town of Bethlehem, and maybe others to light up the notice in the display. I also thought it'd be fun if there was a little interactive bit that they changed when people were actually there watching the window, or just randomly. Lots of things I could play around with. And as I say, I'm still playing with it, so there's new things I might do. But yeah, let's take a look at what it turned out to be. So yeah, it was kind of these rolling hills of grass and little shepherds there with all their sheep. I move them about sometimes, and there's a lost sheep as well somewhere in here that you had to find. He's gone a bit away from the flock and the shepherds. And then there's some really simple houses that I made just 2D for Bethlehem. And there's a notice about that it's Windows 6 on the trail, and the QR code or the website address so you can interact. And above Bethlehem there's a star. Now when you go to that website, there's a big button to press, and something will randomly change. It takes about 10 seconds for it to change. The flickering in the lights isn't intentional, but so sometimes one of the lights in the town will change to white light, or might just turn off, pretending that people turn off their lights. Sometimes the star goes off, and other times the colour lighting up the info sign changes, but I'm not sure that was all that well placed, so I'm not sure it was even needed to light up that sign. And as I say, I want to do different things. I think it'd be fun if like the star kind of animated. Maybe I'll do that. We'll see. So now, how did I make this? It's not that exciting behind the scenes. I've got a few pictures I took. And I was kind of thinking as I go along, doing this a bit in evenings after work. And I've got my pictures here to remind me. So I started just with a cardboard structure, cutting up bits of cardboard to make a frame. This I think turned out to be not so good, because standing shepherds and sheep on it, it wasn't easy. I thought I needed to create rolling hills. I think actually just different sized boxes, and the difference between them, the hills would have rolled, but I would have had a firm foundation, particularly the masking tape I should hold, but it kept falling apart a bit. But yeah, you can see that picture. And then covered it with some green fabric that I had that's quite a bright green. It doesn't show up on camera in the dark, but you can still see that brightness. Mainly because there's a street light right by my house. Covered that, and it was the length. I didn't want to cut up this fabric, so I'll probably reuse it for something else. It filled most of the window, but that's okay because we were going to have the town of Bethlehem to go there. I'm not sure if I've got any pictures of me creating Bethlehem, but rectangles of card, different sizes. I didn't think they needed to be actual buildings. I thought each LED on the strip would look like one window, but you can quite easily see over and see the strip. And when one light goes off or changes colour, it's not that obvious. I could have made dividers so it splits up, so out of each window you're only seeing one light. But that's a bit too complicated on the cardboard construction. So I'm not sure it's really worth it. And I might change the code just so more lights change at once. Yeah, I could have done boxes, not worth it. Maybe I need to collect more boxes in future. Yeah, and then the shepherds. So I had some scraps of fabric. These are my dad's old work clothes, but that's fine, he doesn't need them. And they make great outfits for shepherds. So I could have stitched these. The shepherds are really tiny. Maybe that was a mistake. It's a bit tricky. I was a bit rushed for time because I was still working, and then in the evenings remembering I had to get this done by 12th of December. But I basically just cut small squares off, wrapped them around some cotton wool that I had. Maybe some kind of foamy stuffing would have been better. Maybe to shape them or to stitch them, I used kind of super glue type stuff to glue them down. They were wobbly, they didn't stand upright. Some of them now have a 5p coin in the bottom to give them some weight to hold them down. I think a lot of the problem is there's not a flat surface. I had to find somewhere nice on the hills to place them. And I do like moving them around. The sheep are literally just cotton wool, nice and easy. Different sizes, and trying to not pinch them so they still look fluffy, but place them is very tricky. And some tiny little ones for the lambs. So that was simple. And that's the whole structure. Oh, the star, of course, the important bit. Cutting out the star is quite tricky because you want it symmetrical. It's not easy to have it with lots of points. I tried wood tracing paper, then I realised actually tracing paper is quite see-through when it's got bright lights behind it, and plain print paper, white paper, print paper was fine. I think, did I? Yeah, I ended up even kind of brushing it with a pencil, scratching on to make it a bit darker, but yeah, maybe I should have just used darker paper, I'm not sure. Because I didn't want you to see the points of the light. I thought it was nice just radiating it out, the paper kind of diffusing it a bit. But instead I think you do notice the ring. You can definitely see it on this side behind the paper. In fact, let me show you. Oh no, it won't focus, so it looks good. But yeah, some diffusing will be helpful, but that's really why I want to program it, so at times kind of each of those lights kind of light up in turn and it looks like the star's spinning or something like that. Yeah, fairly simple. And then trying to stick things down was a pain. The buildings are stuck with the glue gun, which is always fun to use. And then I didn't bring enough glue sticks down from upstairs, so just about got that done. The LED strip is stuck up around the edge. It goes actually along, in fact it's completely fallen down because it's stuck up with sticky pad things and they're not holding it very well. It's very heavy. I think sellotape's a bit better for that. I'm going to fix that in case anyone's looking tonight and then tell you about the electronic side. Well, so with that now back stuck up, we'll talk about some of the electronics and the brains behind it. So it started out, as I said, started trying to do this for some lights in my living room. Bought a strip of LED lights. These, yeah, they're fairly cheap. I'll put the price up. And then you can buy various controllers to plug them in. They're powered by USB, so don't take a lot of power. Although there are some, if you want white light, if you want bright light sort of to read under, you can get ones that do colour and white as a separate LED on there, which is quite important. But the ones I was really interested in were the individually addressable ones, which means we can write code to talk to each one. Now, this means instead of changing it to one colour or varying colours, you can do things like rainbow patterns and stuff like that, that it kind of keeps changing and they're all different colours. You can have it wave. I want to try and do some clever things like maybe based on the weather, it'll turn blue in the morning and remind me I need to take an umbrella to work, stuff like that. When I'm actually travelling to work, of course. But to find out how to program this, I needed to know about arduinos, which is a whole family of little microprocessors. I took a lot of knowledge from Bitloony on YouTube, so I'll definitely link to him in the description and probably up there. Trying to find there was one video that I think was most helpful. And he talks about, there's various sites as well that tell you about what LED strips to get. I think they're fairly similar now, and there's a table I use for different things for how much power it needs. I found one that requires 5 volts, 5.5, because you can normally get that off USB, and I can power a microcontroller with that, so it's the same power for the same thing. And I think there's some WSG number that explains what language the LED talks in. But to control it, I got this little microprocessor. I actually ordered 3 off Amazon in a pack. I think they're just a few quid. But yeah, this is a NodeMCU. This actual one's called ESP-12F. So that seemed to be, I think, what Bitloony used, and I could go with some of his code. So you can see there, it's got little Wi-Fi bit, little USB socket to plug into, and then it's got all these connectors which come as legs. So yeah, there's one that you connect the power to, one the positive and a different one for the negative, and then there's some data wires. And I plugged that into what's called a breadboard. Good for coding, because you can take little wires and they just poke into the holes and make a connection. So connect that up to that. And you can see the picture where I did this. And originally I thought, well, the LEDs can do things like the town and maybe light up the sign I was going to put. But, I needed the star to be bright, because that's what it's all about. It was definitely a noticeable star. So I thought I would need to put in some standalone LEDs or a whole run of those. Not sure if they were bright, so I was playing around with that to start with. But on this picture you can see the LED strip has 3 cables. At the bottom there, there's red, white and green. So I plugged them into the breadboard. If it needs more power, you can also plug in just those additional red and white ones to give it more power. That's normally if it's long enough, but there's 74 LEDs on this strip. It was a longer strip, but I cut it in half. Because it was 150 and I cut it in half, but did that slightly wrong, so I didn't get 75. The connection was too bad for me to join up, so I tidied it up. And yes, I've plugged this in. This is powered, and then picked D1, data 1 connects to the green cable for the LED strip. Simple as that, really. And then plug in the USB and start coding it with Arduino, which I'm not very good at, don't quite understand, but I use Bitloony's code. It lets me run the LEDs as a rainbow wave, as different colours. There's a bit of code to turn on a specific LED so I had to write down, I've got a piece of paper here trying to do my numbers. So I was like, the town will be the first 12, did I think? Oh no, yeah, the info sign will be the first 9 LEDs, then maybe up to 12 LEDs to light up the town. The wall, because it kind of goes up the side, takes about 29 LEDs. And then the last 18 are the star in a spiral. And I played around with those numbers once I actually stuck it up. But yeah, plugged that all in, then did the coding. with that. Kind of botched it, kind of bit reverse engineered what Bitlooney had written. Still, it did help me understand it more doing different bits, and don't always understand his functions. But I'm figuring them out. Now I can probably remove some of his code to put more of mine in. But certainly the libraries he's got there are important. So this is the lights that I'll stick on the window. This is the nice handy USB terminal connector. A lot easier than the wires I had to solder. Terminal block that joins all the bits I want. This is the first chip I use, so it should be fine. The lights have gone off because the timer is a bit dodgy. And yeah, I've soldered these. These connections are all fine. And there's a USB cable in case I need to plug it in and upload new code. Then I had to order some parts. Don't do a lot of electronics as I'm a web programmer. I don't need to, but the breadboard was a bit fiddly and you kind of knock it a bit and it pulls out the wires. So I wanted something a bit better. Yeah, particularly the connections to the USB cable, because I'd basically cut a USB plug off and stripped the wires. So Pi-Hut was helpful for that. Really great was the terminal block. So it's a USB plug, but I could just poke wires in there and screw them in, nice and secure. But I also got from them some USB plugs that I can solder on if I do anything more permanent, and know the length of the wire. I made lots of wires. You'll be able to see I took a video of that. So soldering them on, making sure I knew where they went, straight onto little bits of wire sockets that can then plug onto the legs of the NodeMCU. So there was a section for the positive and negative of the power going from the USB block into the chip to give it some power. This one can just about take 5 volts, although it would prefer 3.3. And then the other section is for the data. Now I only need the one cable for this project, which will be the green cable to the LED strip. But I thought I might as well connect 2 other data points because it might be helpful to keep that for other projects if I have maybe a different LED strip or something like some buttons. I might have this button controlled in my living room, so you press a button and it changes the lights to different colours or different sequences. Yeah, so that was kind of future-proofing it a bit, but not needing to solder lots of them. And then a little bit to tidy it up and to make sure those connections with my soldering didn't connect accidentally, the 2 legs. I had some plastic tubing, shrink wrap tubing. So you kind of push that over the wires and then hold it over a boiling kettle for some steam. Which is interesting to hold a camera at the same time. But the plastic tubing shrinks and kind of holds on to that wire, gives it a bit of a mechanical holding it together as well. And that connection's pretty good. So those wires then go into a little clippy terminal block thing, so that I've got the chips. I plug in the positive, negative, and the data wire will go in there. And then on the other side, positive and negative wires from the USB power and the also into that block, positive and negative for the LED strip, as well as the green for the data. It's quite simple electronics. Match the colours up, make sure I use the right colours. Yeah, and you can see under where I put under the town of Bethlehem hides it all quite well. There's a little little dragon bookmark that's kind of holding the USB thing, because that's the main thing, the wire that runs away and into my wall socket. It's easy for the weight of just that cable to kind of pull it down, and that will be quite annoying. So there's a little dragon thing that I have that just holds it in place. And yeah, that's the electronics. Quite simple, quite fun. Building the windows definitely been good for helping me understand that, for getting things, realising that actually, I don't have all the things I need. I could do with probably some desk power supplies so I can give it the right power. But yeah, I'm starting to build up my collection of bits, things I need. So I've got a spare NodeMCU there, which I'll use in another project. The USB, so the plug in the terminal block is fine, but that goes to standard USB. Then the wall socket, which I won't unplug because it's powering it, they can change what voltage they give. They give different voltage. I've got lots lying around because you have them from different things. But you might notice some power your phone faster than others. So yeah, I need to make sure I've got one that powers 5 volts. I know I've tested that, it works with that. Others in my house I know I can't use for this project, but they charge my phone fine. Okay, I'm upstairs now at my desk where I do my programming. My day job is as a web developer using a language called PHP for programming, and I know how that works. I know the parts I use and the tools, the words and the functions I have to use. But for that little microcontroller that I showed you, it's an Arduino. So that's using the C programming language, and a bit of C#. So I'm not familiar with that, but as I said, I'll show you my screen, and I'm down here in the corner. I use the Arduino program to code this all up. So this is very much from Bitlooney, his code. So there's various settings such as what pin it's connected to on the board. I was using D0, but I think it didn't work. I don't know if that was one of the boards or the connections, maybe with the breadboard anyway. D1's never let me down. There are 74 LEDs, that's really important because it's about what data signal it sends. But also when it's turning on every single light, it stops when it gets to the end. And then there's some other setup bits I don't quite understand. Then I created my own variables. So I wanted it to turn on at 4 p.m, turn off at 10 p.m. It does turn on by itself, but I've not yet worked out why it doesn't turn off. And that changes the window status, so if it's false I don't want it to do anything. If it's true then it should be on. And then I developed some other bits of statuses for basically the main 4 sections of that LED strip. And very important, I specified where they are. It's a lot easier to write it here than to try and work that out later. that could potentially just be one LED at the start that can be my one for debugging what's happening. And what's nice about this code is it creates a web server. So actually, if I open this up, here's the web browser. You can see it's just a few simple links and functions that I've tried to set up. Some of these are left over from the original code from Bitloony. So I can run Rainbow, which will change all the lights from 0 to 73, going from red to blue, and then it kind of moves along. I don't know why I kept that in as a link. I thought it would be funny to run. Maybe I'll do that just for the video. Hopefully no one's looking from outside. This was really helpful. So there's a bit to view times, especially with debugging. And that shows, that shows when it turns on. So 4 to 10, it's currently 1, so it's true, it's on. And I can change times, although that didn't quite work out. Helpfully, I can also reset it back to what it's like when the lights turn on, and some other links, just so I've got more control than you would have from viewing the web page. So setup is a key function in Arduino. That happens when the chip's turned on, when it's got power, when it's restarted. Then this was quite a simple bit to understand, that if the server gets a /rainbow command, if you go to that URL, do the change the lights with the rainbow function, and the functions are at the top. I'm still trying to understand them. I added the action one. Now when you press the button on the web page, I should show you that, it will do a random action, but for me I can do action and give it a number, knowing which number. So if you see from the window the QR code or the website address that you type in, I'll cover it up here. You'll see this, the kind of merge of two passages in the Bible as I kind of put together. We saw his star that will cause great joy for all the people. So you can see where that actually comes from. But there's a nice big green button. So you press that, and then it tells you to watch the window. This is all code not on the chip, which is a lot better. No one will have so much issues there. It's a really simple page. I could make this more styled, but I had fun not worrying about the design or too much of the style behind that. And what this does behind the scenes is it changes a text file on the web server with a timestamp to say when it was requested. The void loop function. So this runs constantly, which I think is a common function in Arduino. And it's the really important part, because we want to keep doing things and checking things. First of all, so it'll run that, it'll do all the things, and then it delays. I think I should change that. And it'll mean it's not doing everything in every loop. But what does it do? First of all, it checks the time. So this is the bit I'm unsure of, because I had to add some libraries here, and I don't think these chips are very good at keeping time. And you can see them up here. So this runs a function, simple fade and set LED function, passing it simple town lights. And this was one I rewrote. And so here I did set where the town starts and ends. It'd be better if it passed it from the main function, because I've repeated it here, but Still learning about passing between functions in C and including different things. Oh, and also there's a function to turn for the info to go on and the star to go on as separate functions, because I do change them frequently. Things like the info go on, I didn't do it as its own file. It's just simple loop through the places and then run this for the LEDs to commit it, change them each to that colour. So that's the LED number it'll change, and then red, green and blue, so it changes it to a blue colour. Yeah, as long as the window status is on, so it's during the night hours, it gets this URL, which is a text file. This isn't the correct URL because I need to change it. And it hopefully gets the result of that. And as I said, this text file is a timestamp. Assuming it's got it and it wasn't 0, then it quickly gets runs another request, and that changes the text file back, changes it to 0. So basically clears it out, says we've done the request. Then it gets into this nice bit, so we pick a random number between 0 and 10. First of all, our random, we want to see if we change something already. I don't want the window to always be in odd colours. I want that basically what you saw on the window earlier. So for example, if we've done something with the wall, let's put it back to normal, turn it off. And that's what it does, sets all the RGBs to off. This less likely because the town doesn't change too drastically. And the idea was with the town, lots of individuals' windows will change and you'll start to get, some lights are on, some lights are off in the town. But eventually this number will equal more than 10. So the more that have changed, the more likeliness it is that it resets it all to yellow lights. A lot of that could be cleaned up, I think. So the random action passes it a number. This is used both by the little control program I had, web page, where it sends a specific number, by pressing the button. So if it's 0, it first makes up a random number between 0 and 3, because that's how many things I've got at the moment. But that means I can just keep upping that as I add more things. +1, so it will turn a random one off and the one off next to it. I think that will be more obvious for people watching. I'm not quite sure what the white means. If people might think that's where Jesus is in the town, if it represents that, or if several windows change white, does it mean more about God coming down to us on earth and more people meeting with God, which is an exciting thing. Make your choice what you think that would represent. Also avoided it just being random colours, because I think back in the time that Jesus came, I don't think they had fancy RGB colour changing lights in their living rooms in Bethlehem. I may be wrong, I'm not a historian. And the other one is turn the star off, which seems a bit boring and sad, but it's fun when then it's a random chance that it turns on again. And maybe if it turns on and it does a shooting star or spins or something, could be fun. So it's all a bit like just changing numbers basically, and the fun of that. The animation will be more tricky, but I could do whatever I want. Yeah, there's other possibilities I could do of that. Different things. Simple maths and programming. So if you know programming, some of this should have made sense. I think you just had to work it out, and I did a lot of this. And so once I'd done something, you can run the tick to click verify, and it just checks there's no problems in your code. It does take a while. There were bits about... Yeah, I had to set it up, and I think tell it... Somewhere I told it what I've got plugged in. So I'd use the USB cable from that circuit board into my computer. And then when that's plugged in, I click upload, and it copies these files onto that chip and restart it. So like now I'll do some programming, make some changes, and then I'll have to take my laptop downstairs by the window and get a USB cable to plug it in. Yeah, I think you can do things to update it over Wi-Fi, but that's a bit more complicated, and you've got to have that code on already. And you can see things here that it is limited. It's not a full computer, which I'm used to running things on big web servers. So the code is using 30% of the storage space on that disk. And then I've got variables taking up space as well. And I don't know, those numbers don't seem too worrying. It still seems to work. I'm not sure why sometimes the code gets confused and just seems to restart, which means the lights go off, but then it goes on, because this does remember what I had on and off. So it's about 8 o'clock now at night. Maybe I'll spend a bit of time on this, and we'll see what I do. So I have made some changes to the code, which I'll open up here. I've got my USB cable, so I'll plug that in to the USB socket. Got it in first time, and then I had to sort of stretch to plug it in here. And on here, if we go upload, there was an error in my code. I should have run verify when I was still up. The problem was that some of the variables I'd written, I'd forgotten quite exactly how I had written them, and it's case sensitive, so I needed some capital letters in there. But verify has passed. So if we run upload, a little purple loading bar, connecting, and it's 20%, 26%. It takes a bit of time to write it to the chip. So it's hard resetting it, which I think means the lights will turn off, and they turned on. So in fact, you saw the blue go away there because I've decided to get rid of the info bit. Flickering a lot. Don't know if that's the chip getting upset. Maybe I made it too complicated and it's running out of memory. One thing I added, and I want to see if this works, is a random thing that makes I need to refresh the page. It's resetting something in that loop because I removed the delay. Every time it goes in the loop, it's re-turning on everything. More debugging. being able to do that update at the end so that the shooting star happened and spun round was really nice, even if maybe most people had seen my video. I had fun almost every day. I think I moved the sheep around. There was one sheep separate, the lost sheep, that you had to find somewhere else away from the flock. So then, I hadn't planned this, but on Christmas Eve I moved it so Shepherd went and found the lost sheep, which I thought was really nice. And that kind of reflects in God coming down to earth as Jesus to find his lost sheep, us, and reunite them with his flock. And the shepherds, that night I've left them just outside Bethlehem, where they've come to see Jesus. So they'll be there till the 4th of January. And that's been fun. So yeah, I'll leave you with a few photos. I also made a website to show where these windows were on the trail, and other trails in Durham. And it's been fun seeing lots of pictures of those when I've looked up to research them, or people have got in touch. And I think I might have to update that website next year. It'll be interesting to see which areas continue this next year. Some have done it for many years. So yeah, I'll just leave you with some nice photos of that now. Enjoy, and Merry Christmas!